Ashutosh. Good evening to all attendees, aspirants, and to you, sir. My name is Nilay Bhatnagar, and on behalf of Team Arambh, I shall be the moderator for today's event. Our webinar today concerns life in the army, and for the same, our resource person is retired Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasnain. A second generation officer, General Hasnain, is one of India's most decorated generals, commissioned extensively in turbulent conflict in areas such as Rwanda, Mozambique, Sri Lanka, Kashmir, Siachen, and India's northeastern region. General Hasnain coined the term scholar warrior as he is a graduate of St. Stephen's, New Delhi, King's College London, the Royal College of Defence Studies, and the Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies in Hawaii. While serving in Kashmir as the General Officer commanding of the 15th Chinar Corps, he inculcated the Hearts Doctrine, which was the first humanistic approach ever taken up by law enforcement in Kashmir. After his superannuation, General Hasnain was appointed the Chancellor of Central University of Kashmir and a member of the National Disaster Management Authority. The general also writes extensively for news outlets such as Times of India, The Quint, News 18, and the Indian Express. Thank you for joining us, sir. It is my pleasure to be your host.
Thank you very much. Do you want me to start straight away?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Right. Good evening to all my viewers, to our viewers, listeners. Thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this program, this platform, which has been set up. A wonderful initiative, I must say. And as I was just discussing with my host, that I do get invitations from a lot of organizations. I don't necessarily take them all up, but I found that here was a organization, a platform which has been set up by young people, for young people, primarily focused on training their minds, getting them oriented correctly, perhaps to join the armed forces. Not only the armed forces, but perhaps many other professions which require a good basic value system. And that's what excites me. Anything which concerns a good value system. So how are we going to do this today? I was asked by my host to speak on geopolitics of India, international geopolitics, the Kashmir issue and Siachen and Ladakh and things like that. I personally feel I keep doing all on my own. I said, so a strange subject. Because a lot of aspirants who want to come to the army or the armed forces really, what are they heading into? Which is why this is going to be my first talk to you all. And subsequently, as you realize that this is a different talk perhaps, and that my approach is a little different perhaps, we may have one or two more sessions in which specific issues concerning life in the army could be put to me. I don't expect you all to do that today. Today I have a set of questions which have come to me, which are very, very interesting questions, but all do not necessarily relate to life in the army. There are lots of things concerning my career, concerning my observations, concerning geopolitics and things like that. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to speak briefly in the beginning of a few issues which I jotted down, what I thought should be put across to you. And then I'll ask Nilay to take on, and he can put his questions which have come to him to me, and we will spend about 45 minutes to an hour or so. We've got about 7-8 questions which we will try and answer to spot. So here goes as far as the life in the army is concerned. Right. I think I was introduced just now as someone who calls himself a scholar warrior. I don't call myself. People call me that. Right? It's not my idea either. This idea is a borrowed idea, and when I borrow ideas, I never call them my own. That's intellectual and professional honesty which I follow. I don't want to claim something which is not my own. This idea I was brought from the United States. The US has got this wonderful system by which they feel that a soldier, everything is with soldiering is associated with brawn, the weapon, the ability to handle the weapon, your physical fitness, your ability to be courageous, brave, everything. But no one considers the fact that to go to war and to win a war, to go to battle and win a battle, there is much more than your physical courage, your ability to handle your weapon. Much more to it. And that is the need of your brain. There is a perception prevailing around. In India particularly, this is because India doesn't have a very strong strategic culture. There is a perception prevailing here. Go to the army, and I think there's a question on this also, which is coming to me later, but let me answer it here itself at the initiation of this. That once you are in the army, you don't require to need your brain. All you need is be physically fit, be able to run your 10-mile run, do your battle physical efficiency tests, do your firing and shooting, do a little bit of unarmed combat, and you're fit. A lot of people ask me, many people ask me, so and-so got a Paramveer Chakra in so-and-so battle. Why didn't he become the army chief? These are very strange questions. Very, very strange questions. You put them to a soldier anyway, it shocks him. He starts wondering. You mean to say that everything in the army is about courage, bravery, ability to do something physically? There is nothing at all as far as your matter between the ears is concerned. Now, this is what brings you to the concept of the scholar. The Americans make it very clear. Yeah, you're there, you're a soldier. As you rise in the ranks, if you just remain a soldier in your abilities, then you deserve to remain a soldier, nothing more. To become a leader, to become a general, you need to have something more in you. The ability to inspire, the knowledge, ability to join the dots of geopolitics around the world, intellect, the ability to read, imbibe and absorb what you're reading, take the lessons from it, take the lessons of history, take the lessons of military history, apply them correctly, everything to the advantage so that you can bring your men to a position of advantage against your enemy. If you just tell your men, come on, let's go, and you go to the line of control and say, chalo bhai, lado, you think you're going to win the battle? You're going to be nowhere near winning that battle. Because the enemy will come from different directions against you. You haven't thought about it. You have no intelligence. You haven't thought about a plan. So, my friends, the whole idea about a scholar warrior is the concept that a soldier at different levels has to be educated differently. Now, there's a lot of difference between being trained and being educated. A lot of difference. If you are well trained, it means that something happens, you respond instantaneously. A terrorist has fired at you from behind a rock, you know exactly what to do as per your training. You pull out your rifle, you go to the ground, you aim at that place, fire 3 shots, change your position, roll and go to the other position, wait for the terrorist to appear, fire at him. This is training. This is training. Education is something different. Education is to think beyond the training. Outwit your enemy. Outwit your adversary. Let me give a classic example. Have you seen what happened to the Chinese in Ladakh? The Chinese were sitting pretty after Galwan. They said they got a psychological advantage on India. They are browbeaten India. They've killed 20 soldiers and no one knows how many Chinese soldiers have been killed. They haven't allowed the world to know. They haven't announced anything. So advantage is with China. Psychological advantage is with China. They have gone and occupied finger 8 to finger 4. And India is crying out here. The public is questioning the government. Why aren't you making statements? Why aren't you coming to the media and admitting that you have failed? The opposition is making all kinds of statements to say, why isn't Mr. Modi coming out and making transparent? statements to say we have failed and we have not been able to evict the Chinese. We did nothing of the sort. We did nothing. We waited. We waited. From 15th of June, when Galwan happened, and around the same time, Pangongsu had been occupied, those fingers had been occupied, we waited till the 29th, 30th of August. On the night 20th, 29th, 30, we used 2 to 3 units from a brigade and special frontier force, SFF, made up of Tibetans. And we went and occupied 7 features on our own side of the line of control on the Kailash range, which had never been occupied before, after 1962. Right? And we put ourselves in a position of advantage because we started overlooking and dominating the Moldo garrison, where the talks between the corps commanders also take place, where the armor, where the artillery, where the headquarters of the Chinese is all located, in a place called the Spangur Lake, in that area. Without firing a shot, we put ourselves in a position of advantage. So we have balanced the disadvantage that we were in, and we have balanced the advantage of the Chinese. How did it happen? You surveyed your maps, you looked on the ground, you consulted. Someone had this idea that if we do this, perhaps this is the advantage we take. It was done because of the matter between the ears. Someone had the brain to do it. And see, without firing a shot, we have put a balance on the situation. Once again, this is what I call a scholar warrior. Obviously, a man who had scholarly capability thought about it. He looked at 1962. He knew the 62 war. In the 62 war, the Chinese had done the same thing at Razangla, where we lost 128 Jawans. Major Shaitan Singh's very famous action, Paramichaka. So what I'm trying to tell you is knowledge of any kind. It doesn't have to be military knowledge. Knowledge of any kind allows your brain to flower. It allows your brain to think. Right? It should be thinking which should not have any limits. Allow the brain to flow. We put so much restriction on our brain. Just like we don't breathe enough with our lungs, we don't think enough with our brain. Think unlimited. The greatest fantasies of the world. What will you want to do to the Chinese if you come across in a battle against them? All kinds of things. And you will see that your hunger for knowledge grows. You will want to read more, you will want to hear more, you want to absorb more. And as you do this, you start looking at newspapers, magazines, read online a lot of stuff. Knowledge will increase. And your ability to think will expand. Huge. That is when, if you're in the army and you're a soldier, you can start claiming, I am becoming a scholar warrior. That is what is the whole concept of a scholar warrior. So, remember one thing. If you're coming to the army, if you plan to join the army, and you think that you're going to go to National Defense Academy or to the Officers Training Academy, OTA, or you're going to go to IMA, the Indian Military Academy, and that's the end of your academic studies. Let me tell you, for 40 years, I have only studied. Nothing but studies. Nothing but studies. I have studied 10 to 12 hours every day. There have been night, days, and weeks and months when I've slept only for 4 hours. I've always read, done my work, done my normal work. Besides that, I have read extra, tried to gain knowledge. And that is what brought me to the rank of a 3-star general. Okay? There were many colleagues of mine who were excellent, very good soldiers, physically very fit, very good sportsmen. But somehow, they didn't have the ability. They didn't acquire the ability to think and gain greater knowledge. And without knowledge, you're going nowhere in the army. Let me tell you that. So let me that be the first lesson. Remember, the army is not a job. It's not a job. If you're coming here to earn your living, forget it. Right? Yeah, you can stay here 5 years, take or 10 years in the short service, take experience, go out. Good experience, very nice. You'll remember, have a good association, have a good regimental association, have something to talk about to your children and your grandchildren. later in life. But this is a profession. You are coming here to be a professional, which means you are dedicated in this profession, right? It's not a you put your thumb at your office door, and at 5:30 you put your thing again and say, I have done the day's work, I'm satisfied, I'm a good Indian, I have worked hard for the day, 8.5 hours or something, I have worked. In the army, everything is transformational. Today I may not work at all. Tomorrow I may not work at all. The day after, and for the next 1 month, I may work 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. Then there's no family. There is no mother or father. There's no death in the family. There's no birthday. There's no anniversary. Nothing. Look at the soldiers who are sitting in Siachen. Do you know the soldiers who sit in, who are deployed at the winter occupied posts? I had a couple of winter occupied posts with me in Uri. Similarly, they are in Kargil. 6 months, those posts are cut off. Right? It snows so much. The routes are avalanche prone, so you can't move. No one can come out, no one can go. You are stocked. You're stocked for 180 to 200 days. Enough food, enough kerosene oil, everything you can think of is there. Matches, cigarettes, liquor, everything is there. Toothpaste, right? Blades, everything is there available for you. You can't come away. Now what you do is, go take your leave before that, go and meet your family, come back, physically fit people. Mostly you have to be not volunteers, but your subunit itself is like a volunteer, which goes and deploys there. And for 6 months, you are just cut off from the world. Your world is only that little post, nothing else, in which you move for certain duties, for patrolling or something like that. Even that is not possible in winter many times. Today, you're lucky that you've got a system of communications is far better. Most places mobiles don't work, but still there's a good reasonable line communication, and you can get through to people. You can get through home. So once in a week, twice in a week, you can speak home, right? There's no birthday, there's no marriage, there's no celebration. Diwali aane wali hai, Christmas ho rahi hai. No, nothing of the sort. You are just there with your subunit or your unit, and you come out after 6 months. I have had the occasion of evacuating men who have been ill and sick in some of these winter cut-off posts. What an experience it was, my God. I took it upon myself as my responsibility. I sent a helicopter to pull out a man who was very, very ill. And I said, I don't want a man dying in a winter cut-off post. Go get him out somehow. The helicopter went and hovered on top and said, so it's impossible to get him. We can't put him out. I said, do something. It's my responsibility. Right? You do anything wrong happens, this is my responsibility. Those pilots went there at that place and hovered, and the men down below managed to push him into the thing. These people pulled him inside, kept him somehow tied up, just managed to tie him with a belt. So there were no doors. He would have fallen off otherwise. And because he was ill. And then they flew him out from there to the lower post. Thank God. For those moments, I can tell you, my heart had virtually stopped. I mean, when you take lives into your hands, responsibility in your hands, you know what the kind of thing which goes on in your mind at that time. But safely pulled out, lived absolutely happily thereafter. So these are the kind of things which happen in a job such as this. Could I say at 5:30, sorry, today my job is over. Evacuation is taking place. Let someone else do it now. Next man will come and take it over. No, sorry. Once you're on a job, you will do it till the end. Come what may. There have been times when I was about to go on leave, I remember. Even as a brigade commander, 1-star general, as a brigade commander, I was about to go on leave. Tickets booked through 3 months earlier so I could get a cheaper airline ticket and things like that. And suddenly at night, there was a contact on the line of control. A major contact with terrorists. I knew an infiltration attempt was taking place. And I was due to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning. So at 4:30, I took a decision. I told them, have you picked up the bodies? They said, no, firing is still going on. I waited till 5:30. So have you picked up the bodies? They said, no, sir, firing is still going on. Then I rang up my staff and said, just cancel my ticket. There's no way that I can go if the firing is going on and an operation is going on and I am the commander on the spot of the brigade. How can I be seen to be going away on leave? There was a deputy commander over there. He could have taken over the whole operation. He could become the officiating. He would become the officiating commander and therefore take over the operation from me. Very competent man who do it. But is that the message I want to send to my men? That when you are in operations, I am thinking of going on leave. No question. That can't happen. That can't happen. In 1987, I was posted in Jaipur. Lovely place. I'm sure many of you must be from Jaipur. Lovely place. I came there by choice. Very happy. I had a major of a very good brigade. It was responsible for the international border at some very, very interesting places. And I was there for a year and 3 or 4 months when suddenly the Sri Lanka crisis broke out. Right. My unit, which was located in Roorkee. Now I'm from the Garhwal Rifles. My unit is Fort Garhwal. That unit was in Roorkee. It's called staff. This staff qualified. Job. You can come home comfortably in the evenings, etc. Right. Moving to Sri Lanka. My unit is not for me, not an ordinary unit. It's a parental unit, raised by my father. He raised the unit. I was 6 years old when the unit was raised. And I joined the unit on commissioning. Same men. The same men I saw as when I was 6 years old, all of them had grown to become JCOs. They were senior people in the unit. And they all welcomed me. Saab, you were a kid, you were a bacha. And now you are an officer with us. Right? And I said, my God, my unit is going into operations in Sri Lanka. And I am sitting on staff. There is no way. Tomorrow I have to command this unit. When I become a full colonel, I have to command this unit. I can't have the men saying that when the unit was in operations, I was sitting in a peace station in Jaipur. I can't have that. I can't have anyone saying that. It's below my dignity. It is just below my way of life. I straight away applied and sent an application to the military secretary's branch. I want to be posted back to my unit. Very rarely do people ever want to go back to the unit into operations. I said, I want to go back to my unit. People were surprised. They asked me, is everything well with you? Do you have a problem in your brigade headquarters? Do you have a problem with your boss? I said, nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort. I just want to go back to my unit because it is in operations. I went back to my unit. And my greatest experience, one of my greatest experiences of life, were in Sri Lanka, 2.5 years in Sri Lanka, where operating against the LTT, where I relearned my soldiering completely. Right? Now, if I was just a transactional soldier, if I was a transactional human being, I said, "Bhad mein jaye. Let the unit go to Sri Lanka. लड़ने के लिए बहुत है वहां पर. Why should I go? I'm sitting comfortably with my family in Jaipur. Let me complete my tenure. उसके बाद देखेंगे कहाँ बेचती है फौज." With that attitude, you will never be a soldier. You can't be a leader in the army with that attitude. You just have to have a different attitude to life. You just have to have passion in your blood. And you have to look at your men. Your men will follow you. In Sri Lanka, let me tell you, my greatest moments in Sri Lanka were when my men would come to me and say, "Saab, आपके ऊपर तो कुछ भगवान की देन है. You have a God's gift given to you. You can make out where the enemy is. Wherever I would go, I would warn my men, don't go by that route. There's likely to be an ambush on that route. And later we would learn that the LTT was sitting there in an ambush waiting for us. And the men would come back to me and say, "Saab, you've got a God's gift given to you. You can predict things. This is the image you come out with when you go into operations, right, with your men. And then when you command them as a commanding officer, you are God. You are nothing but God, let me tell you. They treat you like God, and if you don't give it back to them in the same way, then you are not fit to command. Everything, every aspect of a man's, of your soldier, of your unit, every aspect of existence of that unit is part of you. You have to do it. You are responsible for it. I mean, I can talk endlessly on the aspect of character of a soldier, the character of a leader. Let me tell you, what do I think are the values, the value system? What are the values that I look for in an officer? In an officer, what values do I look at? I jotted a few of them. One is, of course, impeccable discipline, which means you have to know how to listen to directions and orders, and you have to know how to give directions and orders. Both ways. Things in the army, whatever level you are, it works both ways. You have to be disciplined yourself. You have to learn to obey orders. You have to learn to live by rules. And you have to ensure that everyone else below you lives by rules and follows the rules. You have to have an unquestioning attitude. You see, a lot of people, a lot of scholar warriors in particular, who are well read, very knowledgeable, etc., have got different ways of doing things. Very good. Originality, excellent. Original plans, excellent. But this one thing is very clear. You have got the liberty in the army to suggest. You have the liberty to discuss. You have the liberty to speak out something you feel strongly. But up to that point, when the decision on that issue has been taken, once your commanding officer, once your superior has taken a decision that this is the way we'll do it, and that way is not the way you suggested, you can't start saying, I'm not going to follow this way. I'm only going to follow the way which I said. Because everyone here works like a team. The army is nothing but a team. The unit is nothing but a team. And when you're working as a team, then you can't be pulling in different directions to say, no, this is my plan, this is the commanding officer's plan. Can't have that. Right? So just remember, no unquestioning attitude. Once the plan has been decided, unquestioning. You will just go by that. Loyalty. Your loyalty has to be both directions, upwards and downwards. You have to be loyal to your nation. You have to be loyal to your unit, your formation, your unit, your senior commander. You have to be loyal to them. But more important for me, you have to be loyal to your men. You have to be loyal to your subordinates. You can't let them down. If something has gone wrong, you can't say it is my men who let me down. No. In this organization, if you are let down, you yourself let down the thing, nothing else. Your men don't let you down. Right? It is your duty to train your men. If your men have let you down, you feel, then you have not trained them. That's the way I look at it. Right? Okay. You have to be completely plural. What is the meaning of being completely plural? No bhed bhaad. No religion. Kiska kya faith hai? No. Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai. No. Nothing. One. You are, the first thing is you are an Indian. And the second thing, equal to that, you are what your unit is. You have your badge which you're wearing on your cap, the lanyard which you're wearing on your shoulder. You swear by that. You swear by your nation, you swear by the tricolor, and you swear by these emblems which you wear. This is what drives you. This is what drives you to achieve what you intend to achieve. If you start looking at yourself in a unit, and there are many units of ours which are single religion, there are units which are single region, there are units which are completely mixed, all India, all class, all religions. And these are some which are fixed class, fixed religion, and different types. I come from a unit which is fixed religion, fixed region, Garhwal Rifles, only from Garhwal, Uttarakhand, only from Garhwal, only Hindu. All troops are Hindu. What am I? I'm a Muslim. For the officer, nothing. You can be from any faith. You can be from any faith. Similarly, grenadiers, you go to certain units, you'll find a Muslim company, a Gujjar company, a Ahir company, a Dogra company, mixed together. And officers from all faiths. Hindu, Muslim, Sikhs, it doesn't matter. We've got a formula by which we send officers to certain to regiments. But which unit they go to is, there is no method as such to send them. You see your luck where you land up. Now, can I say, I'm a Muslim, my troops are Hindu? How do I command them? Right? Tomorrow you have a Muslim company in the Grenadiers or in the Rajputana Rifles, right? And you have a Dogra officer, Hindu, who's going to command them, or a Sikh, some Kamaljeet Singh, who's going to command them. How does the Sikh command Muslim troops? The strangest thing of the Indian Army. There's one single rule, simple rule. The faith of the soldier becomes the faith of the officer. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a Garhwali. As far as I'm concerned, I follow all Hindu practices. Right? For me, at home, I'm a Muslim. In my unit, I'm a Hindu. Wonderful, isn't it? The way the Indian Army can manage this. And unwritten anyway. No one has written these rules. It's just done that. Right? In my unit, if in a peace station, if there is a mandir on Sunday morning, we have a parade at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. It's called Mandir Parade. Everything in the army is done by parade. Okay. So we have a Mandir Parade. In that Mandir Parade, the unit will wait for me when I come. I start the Mandir proceedings. Right? And at the end of the prayers, the pravachan given by the Panditji and everything, then the Aarti starts. And we all rise up for the Aarti. Who is the person who will take the first, who will get the Aarti ki thali in his hand? The commanding officer. But the commanding officer is a Muslim. Me. Do I take the thali as a Muslim and say, I'm a Muslim, I'm sorry, I can't do this? Sorry. In the Indian Army, nothing like this happens. I'm a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian or anything. Aarti ki thali comes to my hand. And then I start the Aarti. And then the rest of the unit follows with the Aarti. This is the way the army functions. This is the way we go into battle. If in the battle I say I'm a Muslim, sorry, men, I'm not leading you. Can you have a situation such as that? So, we believe in only the unity of the tricolor. That is what we believe in. The unity of our own regiment, the badge that we wear on our caps. I can tell you as an example, Nawazuddin Siddiqui, the very famous actor, 4 years ago, he tweeted saying that he was not permitted to perform the role of Ram in a Ram Leela which was going on in Muzaffarnagar. He had always been performing as a child. He used to perform the role of Ram. That is India, great India. You have a Muslim child performing the role of Ram. He was denied this suddenly when he grew up now. Recently, bad times, suddenly someone denied him this and said, you're a Muslim. He tweeted. But I picked up the tweet. I retweeted and I said, do you know when you come across a bad practice such as this, where someone does not allow a Muslim to perform the role of Ram, come and look at the Indian Army. Here, nothing changes. In the Indian Army, nothing changes. If it changes, it only changes for the better. And then I put it down, let the faith of the soldier be the faith of the officer. 10,000 retweets in 2 hours. I had 10,000 retweets. The nation loves its army. The nation is essentially plural. They love their patriots. They love the people who can respect every faith, every religion, every caste. Bhed bhaat doesn't matter to them. That's what the army is all about. This is what I wanted to send home, the straight, clear message to people. If you think you're coming with ideas that you're a Jat and you will join only the Jat regiment, or you're a Dogra and you will join the Dogra regiment, sorry. There's a way and a method in the matters of the army. They will make sure that you don't join. They will make sure. I've been the ex-military secretary of the army. I have managed the entire system of the army for this. I know what the rules and regulations are, right? How we distribute officers into different regiments. We make sure that the integrity of the nation is reflected in the army completely. Okay. I've already spoken a lot of things to you, and I think I need to now stop here because I intended to speak only for 15 minutes, but I've spoken now for almost 35 minutes. Let me see if there's anything else which I can speak for the next 2-3 minutes before I come on to the questions and answers. Yeah. We have a system of the officers' mess. The officers' mess. The officers' mess is an institution by itself. Great, great institution. It's a place where you learn the finer aspects of life. You learn how to eat properly. You eat as a gentleman. You learn, well, how to set a table, how to lay out a meal. I mean, finesse, the best of things which many people may never get a chance to learn otherwise, except you go to a finishing school and learn. You get to learn here. But one of the greatest things that you learn in an officer's mess is that on the table of the officer's mess or in the bar of the officer's mess, a couple of things are never spoken. Number one, you will never speak politics. You will never ever speak politics. Number two, you will never discuss finances. Who gets how much pay? Who saves how much money? How much money is there in your bank? This can be done by businessmen. This can be done by good corporate people or anywhere else in the world. I mean no disrespect to them. But in the armed forces, we do not talk about money socially in our messes. We do not talk politics, and we do not talk about women. We respect women. We respect gender. We respect gender sensitivities, and we don't discuss anything which is incorrect in that way. These are some of the things about being what is called an officer and a gentleman. Remember, when you join the academies, you'll be known as a gentleman cadet. Why not just a cadet? National Defense Academy, you're an undergraduate, you're still not there, you're still about coming into it, so you're known as a cadet. But at the OTA and at the IMA, you are known as a gentleman cadet. Gentleman cadet. Because above everything else in the army, as an officer of the Indian Army, besides being a professional or anything, you are first a gentleman. Which means you will abide by the honor code of the army. Which means you will not do anything which brings a bad name to your organization, a bad name to your regiment, a bad name to yourself, a bad name to your family. A gentleman never does that. Just remember it. So I'll stop here, although I can go on for hours on this, but let me stop here. I've got much more to speak to you in the later times. I hope you enjoyed a few of these things that I just spoke about. I will now ask my friend Nile, he can. Thank you so much.
So that has to be the most.
Thank you.
So should we begin with the questionnaire now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions lined up, vastly different topics, and it took me a long time to go through your profile, your articles, through different news outlets, and I came up with these questions, which I thought would be suited well to you. So the first question is concerning the coronavirus. Now, in the wake of the pandemic, so the world saw countries cordoning off which haven't been seen since the Second World War. All kinds of different things. How do you think the face of war and conflict has changed with the onset of the coronavirus pandemic?
Firstly, I hope the world was really a lot of pandemics, let me tell you, in the 90s. But not to this of this proportion. Something of this proportion took place in 1918. 1918 to 1920. It was 50 million, since there was no system of keeping data as accurately as it is being done today. 50 million to 70 million people died. So far here, 1 million plus have died of this pandemic in the world. India alone lost something to the tune of between 12 to 17 million people. India lost. Colonial masters. So all this aspect of vaccine research and things like that, I mean, it was all alien to us. Right? The hope was hardly there at all, but ultimately we came out of it. And you can imagine the effect of the First World War. First World War, we lost 72,000 soldiers of us. When you lose 72,000 soldiers, you can imagine how many families have been devastated. Right? We had an army of 1.4 million at that time, which is a little bigger than the army of today. 1.4 million people. So see the trauma which happened at that time. We have not suffered anything comparatively today. But this has got the makings of something very big. It can happen. What has happened is that this particular pandemic has changed the geopolitical canvas of the world very largely. We don't know whether this was an engineered pandemic or was it a natural pandemic. What happened in Wuhan, whether it is a Wuhan virus, etc., no one can, with any degree of evidence, say that the Chinese actually initiated it. A lot of us love to believe it, talk about it, but no one can say this with any evidence, right? That it came out of the Wuhan laboratory and that whether it was a Chinese intent, etc. What has definitely happened is that travel has come to a virtual stop, and a lot of work is going on the vaccine research. One of the issues which is going to happen in the near future is vaccine is going to be power. Whoever has the vaccine, the most effective vaccine, whether it's the Oxford vaccine, whether it's the Russian vaccine, whether it's the American vaccine or the Indian vaccine, we don't know. Whichever is the most effective vaccine is going to make that country very, very powerful. Just remember that. And there's going to be tremendous vaccine politics in the world. We haven't even seen the beginning of it so far. That's the next thing which is going to happen next year and onwards after that. Okay. I'm not sure nations will go to war over vaccine. No, it won't happen. Conflict. How has conflict changed? Well, number one, geopolitics has changed. It has created stranger bedfellows. It has also brought some nations far closer together. It has brought some nations to have aspirations higher than what they had earlier, like the Chinese. The Chinese immediately after February, anticipating that they had the pandemic behind them to a great extent, they had overcome it. Although the second and third wave came to China also, but they realized that they were in a position where the rest of the world was suffering, and they were in the recovery mode. They could have a economy which was recovered, while the rest of the world would still be in recession. And that would put the Chinese to a great position of advantage, which they can set the course for the post-pandemic new world order. Sorry. Excuse me. For the new world order. World orders keep changing from time to time, but this is a major event which is leading to this creation of a new world order. Right? At the moment, the way we are looking at it, there is a North-South divide. You're seeing a Cold War kind of situation emerging. North Korea, China, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, Russia sitting on the sidelines somewhere. And on the south, you find the US, Saudi Arabia, Israel, India, Australia, Japan. That's the kind of southern order. So you're finding that an apparent new world order, it may not happen this way. It's in the making at the moment, right? Conflict, fighting by itself may not change. But what is definitely happening is power may not come out from the missile or the aircraft or the gun. Power will come out probably from economics, far more from economics. Power will come out much more from what is happening in the domain of information. And the Chinese are the past masters at the realization of this. And may I say in the same breath, the Pakistanis are not following far behind. Okay, information. Now, let me spend 3 minutes on this very important aspect of information as a domain of warfare. The Chinese realized in 1990 that information during the Gulf War, the entry of the CNN into the drawing rooms and bringing the war alive to the people, was changing the way people were thinking of war. So they researched it. In 1993, they came out with a doctrine called war under informationized conditions, which essentially looked at the domain of how to impinge your ideas and thoughts on your adversary nation's population. Because it is public opinion, and the public drives that opinion of the leadership in that nation. Drives the military of that nation, right? To a very great extent. They researched it further. And by 2003, they came out with another doctrine called the 3 warfare strategy. 3 warfares are what? Number 1 is war by media, war by cyber, and war by legal. Legal war, media war, cyber war. Three domains. All are in the intellectual domain. None of them are in the physical domain. For the physical domain, be prepared by having your guns and your aircraft and your tanks. Keep researching all this and have that wherewithal. But follow the principle which Deng Xiaoping used to speak about, called hide your strength and bide your time. Hide your strength and bide your time. When you're strong, really strong, come out at that time. And at that time, use the means of war fighting which are minimum, which will cause minimum damage to you. This is just going back to Sun Tzu's good old principle, that is to win a war without fighting a war. Right? So information warfare has become the domain, and then social media has come. Social media has taken this to another level. And I saw this exactly happening in Kashmir. How in 2011 I was recognizing this, and I knew this was going to happen. I was working on it when I got posted out. And by 2016, the way Burhan Wani was using social media was actually an example for us as to how he was impinging on the minds of this youth of Kashmir. How the Pakistanis were using it from the other side with the inter-services public relations, right? So this is a domain which is very, very important, and particularly with the pandemic now. Why? Because it's inexpensive. In the pandemic, post-pandemic, economies of the world are going to be in disarray. Recovery is going to take time. People are not looking at fighting with each other with the help of weapons and ammunition, which is going to be very expensive. But information, psychological, gray zone warfare, these are the warfares of the future. Yeah.
So you served as a peacekeeper in Rwanda and Mozambique, and I personally attended a number of Model United Nations conferences. I read books on the Hutu and Tutsi massacre, and it was devastating. It was ravaging. When we read about these things, we can only imagine what could have gone down there. You spoke about how 75,000 people lost their lives, and as many families were devastated. So what was it like to serve in the civil war-torn regions of Rwanda and Mozambique?
Thank you. Very rarely have people ever asked me this question, but I think it's a very relevant question. Incidentally, as I was telling you, life in the army, one of my great ambitions in the army was to travel abroad, right? I had not got the opportunity. I didn't have the money. My parents didn't have the money to send me abroad. When I got married, I had 2 children, my wife. None of us could travel abroad. But my dream was I should go to New York one day. I should go to London sometime. Finally, the army sent me first abroad. They sent me to Sri Lanka to fight the war there. Right? Then the next thing was I was selected for the United Nations peacekeeping. And I was sent to Mozambique. And from Mozambique, I was shifted after 8 months to 6 months to Rwanda. 2 completely opposite situations. Mozambique was a 16-year civil war which had come to an end. And we were looking for elections. And we were there primarily to ensure the demobilization of the 2 sides which had fought the civil war. That's the government and the revolutionaries take away their weapons, put their weapons under protection of the UN. We had I was leading the Indian observer mission there, and our job was also to make sure that there was no infringement to the ceasefire. We were also to ensure that we helped the NGOs and the UN staff and the UN teams themselves to look at the aspects of, the demobilized soldiers, to ensure that they were given a second chance and they were allowed to go back to their families and live with their families and have a second profession and things like that. So it was a relatively different job from what you do in the army. Challenging, good fun, got some reasonable amount of money. And from there I shifted to Rwanda. After the elections had been conducted, very successful elections, and Mozambique since then has been a very stable country comparatively. Rich in energy today, right? And one of the exporting countries, one of the energy exporting countries from Africa. I landed up in Rwanda. Rwanda is in Central Africa. It's in the Great Lakes region, near Lake Victoria. That area is on the tip of Congo on one side, Tanzania on the other side. Right? Small country, mountainous. It's just like Uttarakhand. Anyone? I'm not sure any of my listeners are from Ooty or from Bangalore. Any of those places, when you go from Bangalore to Ooty, the kind of landscape that you come across, that's the landscape that you find in Rwanda. Beautiful, absolutely wonderful. At the top and northern end of Rwanda is the very famous game park where you find gorillas. You see a movie called Gorillas in the Mist. It is there where the movie was shot. Beautiful movie. You can see it sometime on Netflix. Probably be available. Gorillas in the park. But I landed up in a hellhole. I mean, what a lovely place it is. But we landed up in a hellhole with my team. A civil war was on, and 800,000 people had been killed. You're talking about 75,000. 72,000 Indians died in 4 years of the Great War. Here, 800,000 people were killed in 21 days. In 21 days, most of them were not even shot dead. They were just hacked to death. Hacked to death. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the worst genocides you could ever think of. Bill Clinton later on went there, apologized to the people because the Americans just stood aside and did nothing. The Americans did not allow the United Nations to do anything. There was a motley strength of 2,500 peacekeepers in Rwanda at that time, and these peacekeepers and their commander, Canadian general, a very, very brave Canadian general, right? He called General Dallaire. He was the person who was commander of this force, and he was telling the UN a lot is going to happen here. There's a genocide being planned here. But the UN never listened. Why didn't the UN listen? Because 1 year before that, the genocide in Rwanda started on the 6th of April, 1994. 1 year before that, exactly on the 5th of June, 1993, a major thing had happened in Somalia, nearby, where a Pakistani patrol was ambushed. 24 Pakistanis were killed. That led to mayhem after that. The UN did conduct operations. You must see a movie called Black Hawk Down, a great American movie called Black Hawk Down. See that. In that, you will see this entire incident in that. And it's because the Americans lost some of their servicemen, some of their aircraft, etc. The Americans said, no, the UN, we are the ones who are paying for the UN. We are not going to allow the UN to step up with these kind of places. So they did not do anything in Rwanda. And you found that the Hutu majority, 90% majority Hutus, they just went after the 10% minority, the Tutsi, and massacred them. Absolutely. I mean, and this time this has happened in 1959 earlier also. And this time the clarion call they gave was saying that don't even leave pregnant women. Make sure you pull out the fetus from the pregnant woman to make sure that a child is not survived. You know, that bad. I landed up in the middle of this and my peacekeepers. And I can tell you that first 7 days we spent in a hotel. There was nothing to eat in that country. We had only pineapple, cassava, and some bread. That's about all. Nothing else. And in the middle of that, we found one garage. There was one garage, a motor garage for repair of trucks, etc., which was run by one Sikh, a Punjabi Asnaji. He was still there. He was still there. He was the only guy who had not run away from there. His family was there. When he saw the Indian peacekeepers, he was very thrilled. And I had a plate of rice and aloo matar after 10 days. And I can tell you it was the most amazing taste of eating your own type of food, Indian food. No, you want to eat, your palate asks for it. Otherwise, I was only eating pineapple and papaya and things like that all the time. But to cut it short, this was an experience of a lifetime. It is one of the rare things where the Tutsis, who were the minority, came back from Uganda and came into Rwanda, fought the Hutu majority, defeated them in battle, and took over the power of the government. Since then, the Tutsi has again been in power. Today, they have a president called Paul Kagame. He used to be the vice president at that time. In fact, he was the army chief for some time when I was there. Then he took over as the vice president, and now he's the president. Rwanda today is one of the best run countries in Africa, right? But that time it was a hellhole, absolutely. And I can tell you that the UN did some very, very good work there, some excellent work there. We managed to find a lot of people. We managed to do a tremendous amount of reburial ceremonies. I have conducted 90 such ceremonies in which we reburied the bodies of people who died. No one knew whose families were. There were no DNA tests or anything like that. We just picked up bodies, but separated them and then reburied them to give them some dignity to people who had died. I mean, one can carry on with the story of Rwanda. But the last bit, a little aside anecdotally, when Prime Minister Modi was visiting Rwanda, I found a lot of people on social media saying, why is Prime Minister Narendra Modi visiting Rwanda? What is so important about Rwanda? What is such a great country called Rwanda? Where is Rwanda? No one had no idea. So when I saw this on the social media, I said, absolutely, this is true that people don't know where is Rwanda, what is the importance of Rwanda. So I wrote a 4-page brief. And I sent it to the Prime Minister's Secretariat with a small note saying, not many people may know much about Rwanda, but I have lived in Rwanda. I know that country and I've followed its fortunes. Today, it is one of the best run, best administrated countries. And the Honorable Prime Minister would be very happy to know that the Swachh Bharat campaign, which the Prime Minister has launched in India, was also launched by the President of Rwanda. Clean Rwanda. This is the only country which follows a system by on Saturday, when the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, spent by the population of that country in cleaning the country. The president comes to office and cleans his office, cleans the corridor of his office. And all people in the country have got an area around their house or the road or someplace to clean. It is the cleanest country in Africa. It's an ideal example of Swachh Bharat. And I sent this to him. I was very happy to note, I was told later, that this brief of mine was put up to the Prime Minister, and Mr. Narendra Modi actually read it while he was traveling to Rwanda. So I'll stop
there. So you spoke about how social media can play a role in changing the thoughts or at least driving the thoughts of young minds, and how it played a role during the death of Burhan Wani. Amid the recent India-China row, you wrote on the Quint that unmonitored social media won't be helping the Indian cause. What do you have to say to young minds which are rampantly active on social media these days?
Okay, as I was telling you, information warfare has got a fillip today because of social media. The power of information is in your hands. The power of using information the way you want to individually can be done by you. You've got certain rights. Of course, there's a limitation to your rights, and you can see lots and lots of legal cases in India today which are being fought out right up to the Supreme Court as to what is the legality of your rights. How far can you take social media? It's all being fought out in the courts today, right? So I start by saying I'm proud of so many things of my country. One of the things I'm not proud about is the fact that we still lack a sense of a strategic culture, which means that people in India, by and large, do not understand what is the meaning of national security. They think that national security means the security of the borders, right? Border secure, India secure. That's no longer, that notion is no longer there. So many things have happened today. You need financial security, you need energy security, you need human security. But you see in the pandemic, human health security, human security, thousands of forms of security, and people who are fighting wars today are no longer fighting wars only by weapons. They're fighting wars by different means. This type of warfare is called hybrid warfare, combining different domains. Hybrid war, right? They've engaged us in the line of actual control in Ladakh. But at the same time, they are fighting us in the virtual domain of information. They're fighting us in the economic domain. India is fighting also in different ways by, for example, banning the various apps and things like that, fighting back, push back against it, right? The Chinese could also fight you by instigating people in parts of the country, maybe the Northeast, which has had a history of some time of certain dissidents against the nation, the Red Corridor. So all kinds of ways you can fight. Now, all this is not understood easily by the people of India today. They still continue, the majority still continues to think that security means the security of the borders. So when this power of information is in your hands of social media today, whatever they feel, whatever they perceive, they like to put it down and send it out. No, you don't realize the power of mass information coming out like this, how it can influence minds of your own people and send out some very wrong messages to your enemies, right? The Chinese, for example, are monitoring your social media. We are also attempting to do that. The Chinese are monitoring your social media because it gives them an idea what is the thought process of the Indian mind. The thought process of the people leads you to think. It may give you indicators to the thought process of the government, of the leaders, of the army, and things like that. After all, Indians, so some element of Indian thinking will enter there. So if you have got an information about Indian thinking from social media, then these are indicators which give you ideas about what the leadership is thinking, what the army is thinking. That is why I mentioned in that particular article that uninformed information being put out like this is never good for the nation. It sends out wrong messages, right? It instigates unnecessarily. What is the mission of the government of India? To me, my India always is peace, stability of the body, progress of the people of India. Seen the government of India, have you seen Prime Minister? And I support that totally. No need to mention. We can still have a relationship with China. We can still have a long-term relationship with China. After all, the Americans fought Vietnam for the better part of 13, 14 years. And today, see the relationship between the United States and Vietnam. Right? There's a saying in international geopolitics, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. There's always permanent interests. You have to keep your interests of your nation. Right? Therefore, uninformed information on social media projects the wrong thinking of the nation. Right? The nation, the government is looking for stabilization, and the population is putting out as if it's looking for war, as if it's looking for revenge. As if, okay, very good. You must have the passion to take revenge for your loss of your soldiers, etc. But leave it to the government. Leave it to the government to plan that. Leave it to the government to take leadership on these things. Don't instigate and don't pressurize your own. That was my meaning of uninformed opinion on social media. Yeah.
So you served in the Jammu and Kashmir region extensively, and you also went ahead to be the GOC of Chinar Corps. Coming back to misconceptions and all these things, what misconceptions do you think that the general public of mainland India might have about Jammu and Kashmir?
Okay. Once again, it's a question of, in the public, there is an informed opinion and there is a much less informed opinion. Informed opinion is that among those people who have visited maybe Jammu and Kashmir, have got friends in the armed forces, have friends in the intelligence agencies, have sat down and explained and discussed with intellectuals. They are from an academic background themselves, maybe. You'll be surprised the number of times I am invited to schools, colleges, universities. I'm invited to corporate houses where I go and speak on Jammu and Kashmir. But I get surprised at the end of it. People have no idea. They have no idea. You show them a map of Jammu and Kashmir, they can't point out Srinagar to you. They can't point out where is Jammu. So I put up a map and I explain to them, see the regions of Jammu and Kashmir. Do you know that in 1994, the government of India, 22nd of February, passed a resolution in Parliament. All parties came together. Are you aware that BJP, Congress, every single political party put aside the differences and came together? Right? Mr. Vajpayee, Mr. Narasimha Rao came together and they passed a resolution saying the whole of Jammu and Kashmir, every piece of the territory which was held by the Maharaja of Kashmir, actually belongs to India. We will aspire to get it back. Now, most people don't know how much of the territory is with Pakistan. Gilgit-Baltistan is a huge chunk of territory with just 600,000 population. Right? No one knows how many people actually know what portion of Siachen is with China. Very few people know that there is a portion of Gilgit-Baltistan called the Shaksgam Valley, which is with China, handed over to China, 5,000 square kilometers, through which the Karakoram Highway has been made. Most people don't know what is the Karakoram Highway and what is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. What is the linkage between the two? A lot of people ask me this question. So how long will it take for the Indian Army to take back Gilgit-Baltistan? That's a provocative question. And it's an uninformed question. Because on one side, there's no doubt about it. On one side, the army chief, the Raksha Mantri have all given out their aspirations that Gilgit-Baltistan will come back to India one day and we will aspire to get it back. So will Pakistan occupy Kashmir. But there's a complexity to it that needs to be understood. That Gilgit-Baltistan is also the area through which the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor runs. So therefore, it is no longer an issue with Pakistan, it's also an issue with China. And is that one of the reasons why the Chinese decided to provoke us this time in Ladakh? My understanding of what happened why the Chinese came to Ladakh, one of the contributing factors is that they felt that India under Mr. Modi has gone far too confident, has grown far too confident, that it is being looked upon by the rest of the world with greater respect in terms of its overall comprehensive power. We have the right friends in the right places. Now you can see today itself and yesterday, the signing of the 2+2, the functioning of the 2+2 dialogue, the signing of the Bika agreement. I mean, a transformational relationship has emerged between India and the United States. All this is sending messages to China of our strategic confidence. How many of our friends from India, our own people from India, can assess this to say that the surgical strikes of 2016, the handling of Doklam, very effective handling of Doklam in 2017, the conduct of Operation All Out in Kashmir in 2017 and 18, the Balakot strike of 2019, and the 5th August decision to roll back Article 370. All this in a progress of about 3 years has added tremendous amount of strategic confidence to India. Now, if I was sitting across China on the other side, sitting across in Pakistan on the other side, I would be assessing it and looking at India and saying, see, this country in 3 years, they've gained so much of confidence. And if you allow this come back sanction, now something must be done to put them down, bring down their confidence, bring down their ability. So this is not, you see, these are the kind of things which people don't know about Jammu and Kashmir. All they know is there are terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. They know that today 2 terrorists have died here and 3 terrorists have died here. And people ask me, they say, sir, General Sahib, ये क्या हो रहा है? यहाँ पर terrorists कहाँ से आते रहते हैं? Army क्यों नहीं मार सकती इन सब terrorists को? You don't realize this kind of warfare can go on for years. It can go on for years. Afghanistan, you see Afghanistan? So, since when is the one thing which is going on? Then the time when the Americans, when the Americans sent in the mercenaries in 1979-80 to fight the Soviet Union, since then is going on, and even before that, nothing in 40 years, nothing has changed in Afghanistan. So these situations continue, and therefore you have to have a larger understanding. When I was talking about scholar warriorship, I was talking about this again. You see, if you look at it only from the simple angle, एक terrorist है, एक soldier है, ये soldier एक terrorist को क्यों नहीं मार देता? It's not so simple. There's far more things involved in this, and these are the things which people, common people, I don't blame them. It's not easy to understand this kind of a thing unless you are into this profession every day, thinking, talking, looking at it, considering, analyzing. Only then can you really come to these conclusions. And that's my job. That's what I keep doing. I bring it to my people. I bring it to our Indian people to make sure that they understand this far better. Yeah.
So now we have some questions for the aspirants as well. And the first question for them is, so there are a lot of officer-like qualities, there are 14 in total, which have been chalked out. There is effective intelligence, reasoning ability, initiative taking, a number of things, sir. A lot of these can get rather whelming for some candidates. How can they maintain a good grasp over them?
Is this you're talking about these OLQs at the time of your services selection board?
Yes, sir, I am.
Look, my advice to my young friends who are going for SSBs, right? Prepare yourself. It's a very good thing. Prepare yourself. Knowledge-wise, prepare yourself. Understand a few things like don't be negative ever. Keep a positive mindset, right? But if you think that the people at the SSB are testing and checking out your officer-like qualities to see how greatly intellectual you are, how great is your integrity, how brave you are, I'm sorry, it's not that. It's not that. These are good qualities laid down, but it's not literal. The better way of looking at it is just depict you're a good human being. Just depict your good. And let me tell you, you are under observation 24/7 there. When you are in the dining room, when you are in the barrack where you are sleeping, or when you are talking to your colleagues, at any time you are under observation. You are being reported upon by someone or the other. Let me tell you that. Okay. And they're assessing your college. Now, for example, in some of these group discussions, or let's say some of these group activities. Now, group discussion. Someone would probably advise you that you must display your knowledge. You should be aggressive in your display of knowledge. Now, you go by that, abide by that advice given to you, and you find that there's a person who's talking about other subject, and you butt in suddenly and say, sorry, you are wrong. You're completely wrong. Let me say, I know that what is the right thing, and you start speaking over. No one is going to call you a potential officer. You don't have your basics. You don't have the basic manners. You're not a good human being. You're being discourteous to your colleague who's there. But if you instead put up your finger and the instructor, the GTO says, yes, Mr. Nile, what do you have to say? You say, sir, I humbly beg to disagree. Mr. So-and-so has spoken very well. But there's an aspect which I think I can add to it. And then you speak your point. Courteously, nicely, without telling the other person you are wrong. This is an officer-like quality. No one tells you about this. I like a person who's, if I'm sitting as a GTO, I would select such a man. Right? Who knows how to live with his fellow human beings. Similarly, in a group activity, group physical activity, you're required to do something. You are physically strong. Someone is physically slightly weaker. He has to step on your shoulder, let's say, he has to put his shoe on your shoulder to stand up to do that work. No problem. Be a volunteer. Be a volunteer. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether your shirt becomes dirty or something happens. It doesn't make a difference at all. Right? After all, you're going to come to grip in war. You're going to come to grips with any kind of thing. Right? So, always be seen to be supportive, seen to be cooperative, seen to be the leader. And the leader by natural instinct and not by an artificial method of trying to impose yourself. Imposing yourself is no leadership. Right? It is getting hold of the situation. Okay, gentlemen, let's just consider when this task is given to you, you are the first one. You find everyone talking. You say, can we get everyone together? Let's just think for 20 seconds. What are we exactly required to do? We are required to reach from here to there. We have been given a ladder, we have been given a tire, and we've been given a rope. What is the best effective use of these three things? Now you're displaying your typical leadership. Right? So these are the kind of things I would instruct you to, I would advise you. Don't start over analyzing on all these officer-like qualities, because frankly saying, they are very, very theoretical. Okay.
Now, sir, say a candidate has cleared his SSB interview and he is due to join one of the academies soon. He is physically fit, he is physically sound, he's ready for what is going to be there in the academy. But then I would repeat what you said, sir. It is a lot about what is there between the 2 years. How should a candidate prepare himself, condition himself mentally for joining an academy or joining the armed forces?
Okay. This is presuming, of course, that you have been selected already and you've cleared your medical, you have cleared your merit list, and now the call-up letter has come.
Right, sir.
And you're going there. Now prepare yourself. 2-3 things. Depends, of course, if you are from a military background, then your attitude is different. If you're a completely civilian background, be prepared for a bit of a culture shock. There's no doubt. You have to be prepared for a bit of a culture shock. It's a question of how quickly you absorb that culture shock, how quickly you adjust yourself to that new environment. You see, you're coming out of a college where you have freedom, reasonable freedom. You go to the cafeteria, You ask for something, you get it, you pay the money, you go anytime to the cafeteria. I mean, the overall freedom to go out. You're on the scooter, cycle, motorcycle, you're shouting, this, that. You'll end up in the academy. You're made to stand in a fallen. The first thing, they'll give you a haircut. They equate everyone by giving you a haircut. You start calling everyone sir. Every senior is a sir. Right? And then not only is the sir shouting at you, but your drill ustad, your weapon training ustad, your directing staff, everyone is screaming his head off at you. What is the intention behind it? The intention is you are coming from an alien way of life. An alien way of life. You cannot be a civilian in uniform. You have to be a military man in uniform. Period. What is being done is they are breaking you down. They are breaking you down. Be prepared for it. Right? You will see your drill start doing things to you and your drill instructor. In 10 days, your style of walking will change. In 6 weeks' time, the movement of your arms will change. In 6 weeks' time, your chest will come out. You'll be a different human being. Right? This is some of the physical aspects. There's a lot happening at the same time. You'll be going to class, all kinds of classes you'll be going to. You'll be surprised, why am I being taught all this? You'll be taught academics, you'll be taught English, you'll be asked to take a lecture and a lecturate, you'll be taught weapon training. In the morning, double outdoor, which means a physical training exercise, period of 40 minutes to an hour. Then you go change, pick up your rifle and land up for drill and do that for 40 minutes to an hour. You come back sweating and you have a nice big breakfast and immediately you run and rush again to the class. It's a routine which puts you under tremendous pressure. This pressure is because you have to manage your time. You have to find the time to get a little rest. Otherwise, in the evenings there will be foreigners. They'll punish you for all kinds of things. The intention is at the end of the day to increase your confidence and not dampen your confidence. Just remember, it is not to dampen your enthusiasm. It is to enhance your enthusiasm. And start believing in yourself. They'll make you do things which you would have never imagined that you'll be able to do. And that will give you so much of confidence. Within 8 to 10 weeks, you'll be a different human being. Bear it out for those 8 to 10 weeks. Right? Don't break. Don't break. Make up your mind. I've come here to be in a profession. I will be a professional. I will make sure that I do not break under pressure. I'm a human being with strong resistance, and I will ensure that I do everything which is required to be done and not break down. Lots of people leave the academy and go away. Right? They are the people who have broken down under pressure. They can't take the pressure. It's a good thing that they have left. Because then in the army, they wouldn't have been able to take the pressure of leadership. But this pressure is nothing compared to the pressure which will come on you when you're in the field leading men. Here, this is a different pressure. There, the pressure on your head of decision making, the pressure of having the lives of your men in your hands. That is the kind of pressure which will come on you. Very, very difficult. You start with having 30, 35 men who you are responsible for. Within 2 years, 3 years, you're responsible for over 100 men. And those men are looking up to you all the time. So this is a profession. It's a profession which demands that kind of an attention and ability to get that self-confidence. I can assure you, it's not difficult. It's not difficult at all. It's not difficult. Don't even imagine that it is difficult. You'll be surprised how quickly you will adjust to it. I mean, a college going lad, physically fit and mentally robust, just comes and adjusts himself. Just be sure of that. Yeah.
So since you've already covered the scholar warrior topic brilliantly, I would come down to the last question, which concerns you. So the world has come a long, long way since you were commissioned in 1974. Given that you were commissioned in 74, you must have gone to college during the 71 war. After that, socioeconomic situations have changed. The way we go on with our lives have changed. What would you have done if you were our age or a youth in today's age of information?
I have done everything that you are doing today. Let me tell you, after 40 years in the army, I am still doing the same thing. I'm doing exactly what you guys are doing. I have adapted social media. I'm very, very proficient with the use of the computer. Technologically, I'm reasonably well off. I don't get stumped by technology. And I think I've grown with the rank. I've grown mentally and physically. Ensured I kept myself fit throughout. On the weighing it on balance, if I was given an opportunity ever again today, what would excite me the most? I think the army would obviously excite me all over again. Of course, I would have loved many other professions. I would have loved very, very challenging professions today. I would love to be a diplomat. That's an area of geopolitics and academics and things like that are my strong point. I would have loved it. But I'm cut out primarily to lead men. I was always cut out to lead men. I'm very comfortable doing that. I was always cut out to handle challenging situations. And the kind of situations I've handled in my life is just nobody's business. I mean, someday one can have a session on that to say how one has handled these situations. Each such experience has made you grow. My advice to you is that in life, all of you will have these experiences in life. Every such major experience you have in life, you must come away with certain lessons and make sure that you never repeat the mistakes and make sure that you reinforce those lessons, the good lessons you have learned, reinforce them in your mind to perform them again when you have to do it tomorrow. Right? I don't even wish for people to come across those kind of situations the way I have come across many, many times. People have gone to their death on my word, on my order. I regret it so many times. I have made mistakes by which people have died. I mean, loved ones have lost their everything because of that. It's a tremendous, I'm telling you, it's a tremendous load on the mind, on the head of a leader. And nowhere else it happens. It only happens in the army. And particularly in the army, it happens in the infantry, to the arm to which I belong. Because we are the ones who bear the brunt of this, right on the line of control, on the line of actual control, in hinterland operations. What I'm really proud of at the end of my 40 years and now with 7 years outside the army, outside the uniform, what I'm really proud about is the fact that I never look back. In each of these situations, very, very challenging situations, one got the deepest loyalty, the highest regard from the men I commanded, the officers I commanded. And each such experience made me better. And that's why I consider myself today a far, far better human being. The last word to you, the most important thing in life is to be a good human being. You may be a very good professional. You may be a scholar warrior. You may be the best investment banker. You may be the best businessman, the best corporate leader. But if you're not a good human being, you're nothing. Which means you have to have empathy, the power of empathy for your colleagues, for your subordinates, everyone around you. The ability to recognize, the ability to encourage, the ability to appreciate, the ability to reward. These are some of the very, very essential parts of a leader. And that's exactly what we do in the army at most times. Thank you.
And so with that, we have come to the end of our questions. And
Does
before I
anyone want
conclude
to ask me a
this,
question? Even now, I can take one question. Let's see if there's a good question coming up.
so I believe the comments on YouTube are turned off. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
not on the technical side of the webinar. I'm just here to host the show.
Okay.
So before I conclude this webinar, sir, I would just ask you to share a few concluding comments on this initiative that we've started, Arambh.
Firstly, my compliments to you all. it's turned out to be very different from what I thought. I thought it would be a very transactional exchange or a transactional communication from my side. I find that you all, the young people, three of you who have interacted with me so far, have very, very appropriately been able to share with me as to what your desire was, what you, I mean, amazing clarity of what your intent was. And it's because of that that I could communicate so freely on this platform. So I really hugely appreciate that. And I think it's a good need to invite a lot of other people from the armed forces, not from the army alone. You must get people from the armed forces. Don't go by rank, go by experience. And be in touch with me. I will put across many, many people to you who will be better speakers, better thinkers, very, very experienced people, far better than me. Right? There are many, many people better than I am. So I will make sure that they are put across to you and put your questions to them, and over a period of time, imbibe all their experiences and all their positives. Thank you so much. Jai Hind. God bless.
Thank you, sir. With a heavy heart, I must say that we have come towards the end of this wonderful gathering. I hope that today was helpful to each and every individual in their own sense. I thank all the attendees for their time and patience, the organizers for their support and efforts, and on behalf of the organizing committee and the audience, I heartily thank you, sir, for not just your guidance, but for sharing these experiences which shaped you into who you are with us. With that, sir, I wish everyone safe flights, happy landings, Godspeed, and Jai Hind, sir. Thank you.
Jai Hind to everyone.